Member, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barbara, roll call, please.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Here.
Council members Kevin Robinson.
Here.
Joe Neilbauer.
Here.
Robert Bauer.
Here.
Sarah Hudzik. Here.
Okay, moving on to adopt tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make that motion.
Councilmember Bauer makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilmember Robinson makes a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. On the consent agenda tonight, I'm going to pull out item D, Opus Utility Building Contract. I want to discuss this with the council. I want them to be aware of all the stuff going on with that, so I'm going to pull that out. Other than that, do I have a motion tonight to adopt tonight's consent agenda other than that one item?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Mueller makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Goodman makes that second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to that item, Opus deal. Let's get that up. There's on page 4D, page 14. Right there. All right, I want to bring up a couple of things here, and I'm going to talk to Joe Coleman about this and Councilman Mueller about it, but there's been, as it states it here, as an aside, RMR was the old company for meter reading, right? And they were the one that was going to do 128% markup on their rates. 285 was it? Worse. Okay. That was a holdover from Connexus, as I'm reading here, which I wasn't aware of.
Basically, that's the kind of the oral history we have, is that they used to read Connexus meters, and they just kind of utilized them to read our utility meters, and just over time they were adding agreements.
Okay. All right, and so they're going to be replaced with, what I understand, because I talked to Darcy about this too, is that Opus is going to handle SL Serco, is the other company involved in this. There's only really two players for reading companies.
Yeah, so taking a step back, so RMR also read the city of Andover, the city of Ramsey, and the city of Big Lake, if I'm not mistaken, and they sent that news to everybody. And so all the cities, Opus also worked with all of those cities as well. Everybody's been trying to scramble to find another utility reader, because there's just really not that many companies that do it.
Right.
But it just so happened that we were renewing our utility billing contract with Opus, and they agreed to handle the SL Serco relationship for 120 days while we come to our own agreement with SL Serco, because they wanted to have their own independent agreement with the city of St. Francis.
Right. And what I understand here is RMR wanted to change out the meters. They wanted to put their meters in. Right. And we can never do that. As far as council, I just want you to know, to have a company put their meters in locks us into that company. We can't do that. We can never be that locked in or controlled by a company. We have choices. And tell me if I'm wrong, anything like that. Because I really believe this SL Serco is fine, and there's going to be some rate increases, I'm sure. But in the long run, what we need is I'm for automated reading meters is what I want. ARMs, automatic meter readers, whatever you want to call them. I know when I lived in Ramsey, they did that, and they they changed out their meters so they could be automatic. What Darcy told me was kind of something interesting, because I know I had a misread last year, 5,000 gallons that I didn't use was an error in meter reading. And what Darcy told me is with RMR, there was two ways that they did it. They took a machine to read the meter, and then they transcribed it to another machine by hand. That's a human error factor in play. Where now SL Serco, I understand, just does the machine reads the meter, and that's the one to go by.
Yep, that's what I've been told. It's almost like scanning a UPC at the grocery store.
Yeah, it says that someone else has to go out and do it. Okay. No, what I understand, the contract that we're renewing with Opus is for how long?
5 years. I think.
5-year contract. Okay. So one of my big things about this is, because I know a year ago we put on a capital improvement plan discussing about meters, and I think we were talking more about a 5-year time frame. Now it seemed like it could go within that time frame. So,
yeah, I would say that, and to your point with that's kind of why there's not so many meter reading companies, because everyone moves towards automatic meter reading. But also, so even if we have automatic meter readings, we'd probably still be with Opus to do the billing portion, print the bills and send them.
that'd be okay.
Yep, and so that when we really start talking about timeframes with replacing the meters, it's gonna be when that SL Circle contract comes back in front of you, and we're gonna probably want some policy or some type of provision that allows us to pursue that if we want to, I think.
Right, that leads me to my next question here. I read through this, but I didn't really see a termination clause with these. You know, like a 30-day out clause or something like that. I never, it doesn't say anything. I've seen something that says minimal, something about termination here. Termination of agreement says upon termination of this agreement, Opus will assist St. Francis on a time and material basis in transferring the data to another system in a professional and timely manner. But that doesn't tell how you terminate them. So, Dave, I'm looking at something that says a 30-day, some kind of notice to them and us if we want to back out or get out. And there's always going to be a transfer of data between getting rid of one into the other. And I agree with you, Joe, that in council, we probably want to stay with Opus for the administering and billing. But I'm looking at accurate metering, accurate as possible, so we don't get, you know, obscure amounts like we've had. Some people, Darcy, I think we've had some mysteries of like 8,000, something like that, 18,000 in the past. I think some higher mysteries than I had.
We can have some.
So now the RMR, that way that should stop at that, is the way it takes out that middleman, basically, that middle device.
Yeah, if SL Circle, you know, it works for them, that will be a lot better, because it'll just be easier.
Right, but I also think, Council, that I think one of the things I'm trying to bring up here is I think the eventuality of it is to go to automatic meter reads. Machinery, you know, basically what that was when I lived in Ramsey, if they come in, there's a twisted safety wire on your water meter. They cut that, they twist it off the top, they put a new top on, rewire it, and bang, it's done. It takes 20 minutes to lift that, 15 minutes, something like that, to run on the house so fast. But it's accurate. I know that last year, I believe Conexus last year changed out electric meters to do just more of that. So like you said, they're going more to that. You have less choices now.
Yeah, I think, you know, I do have some experience in this. The one part that does make it a little difficult is that you have to get a right of entry signed by the property owner, and then you're going on their property. There's some obstacles with that, but as far as the actual mechanical portion of it, I think it's relative.
Yeah, it doesn't disrupt the house much at all. I mean, there's no shutting off water or anything like that. So I think that's the eventuality. And like I say, we did put it on the capital improvement plan to at least have it on the table for discussion. But with a 285% rate increase, that pretty much pushed that up. So my next, like I say, I'll ask questions of the council, of course, but my concern is, again, a good out clause or termination clause, so that whatever deal we make with SL Circle or whatever, we have a way of terminating if we go meter sooner than later. So I'm going to open up for discussion here. Kevin, do you have anything to say about that?
No, I really don't, Mayor. I'm glad you brought up those points. I think it's important to cover our bases, to keep our end protected as well. I know some of these contracts can always be one-sided unless you tear them apart a little bit.
Joe?
The only question I have, I guess, would be more if, I know we talked with Paul about phasing these in, if we were gonna do the automatic meter reads. Does this leave us open then to kind of do, if you're phasing them in, obviously somebody's gotta read the automatic ones with the system that we currently have, unless it's compatible. The only curiosity or concern I would have with that.
Well, I know Paul's told me his new house has come up with the new meter versions in, so you know, he's preparing himself for it.
Right.
And they go out, and the meter's bad, they'll replace it with the newer version. So again, he's knowing this was coming. So I think he's prepared himself well for it. Rob, you have anything to say?
No, I probably emulate what Joe was saying, is having kind of a split contract once we start putting in the new meters.
Yeah, so for 120 days, the way this is written, Opus is going to basically get passed through billing to pay SL Circle or reader. I mean, this is RMR is, they're not done already this first for sure.
They're done.
Yeah,
They're not going to be reading the
They're done.
SL Circle will be reading in April.
And so Opus is going to pay SL Circle for 120 days while we can negotiate with SL Circle on an appropriate contract. And then we'll bring that back to you guys, but they're going to basically ensure that we have seamless service on this.
Right, and I would just say to you that depending on the price, we'll have no choice but to go to SL Circle to begin with, because we aren't set up to go full, you know, automatic meter reading yet. But I'm just saying, when we thought about it 5 years down the road or a little farther, we may have to think a little quicker now, and it's something worth discussion. Because one thing, we need to be accurate with our meter reads. Our water prices are high enough, even with the reduction, they're still high. And we need to be accurate with the people. Right. Sarah, what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna ask about Darcy probably knows, the fee for the online payments. Is that still gonna be like the $250? And it had been, if you set up your account and you're gonna pay it online, you had to pay a fee every time. And I don't know if that's changed or if it's gonna go away.
If you use a credit card, you get charged, the customer gets charged those fees because the city is not going to absorb those fees.
Okay.
If you have it taken directly out of your checking account or your savings account, there are no fees. The city picks that up.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so anyways, I'm more concerned about having a good termination clause in whatever contract we do with either party.
So yeah, this one would be if someone defaults on the agreement, the party that did not default could terminate it.
Right, but that's if you don't perform.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's just say hypothetically, we have SL Circle for 2 years, okay? And all of a sudden, we decided to boost our time frame up for the audit AMRs, and we decided we're gonna do it, we should have an out clause in place.
We'll have a rock solid contract to bring back for you on that one for sure.
Because I will be looking for that. Okay, just to let you know. Okay. Any other discussion from council? You understand everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay. Then, I need a motion to, how do I have to word that, Dave? So I can put back that item?
Just to accept the agreement.
Just accept that? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept item agenda D, Opus Utility Building Contract?
I'll make that motion.
Councilmember Mugler makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilmember Kevin Robinson, right? Councilmember Robinson makes that motion. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Meeting open to the public. Barbara, you have anybody?
Yes, we have 3 different ones, and they're all about the DNR variants.
Okay, great. Super. Someone wish to come up and state your
First
name?
one is Sean.
Well, should we wait till, are you gonna be talking about this later? I didn't know it was going to be on the actual.
We are going to be talking about it,
There's a- did
but
you
it's
just
not
get
open
it?
to the
Yeah.
public at that.
There's another form you can sign to speak again.
I'll
Right
just
after.
wait till afterwards, so I.
Okay.
I know you're here, so we can always ask.
Do you want to all do that then?
Please.
Okay, so we'll transcribe that to the second meeting of the public, okay, which is after that item, okay. All right, anybody else then?
No one else.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business. Interim use permit for home occupation, 6032 Ambassador Boulevard, resolution 2019-10.
Mayor and council, attached in your packet is a request for an interim use permit for a home extended business. The applicant is requesting an IUP to operate a seasonal landscaping business out of their accessory structure. The property is roughly 150 acres. It's zoned A2, or Rural Estate Agricultural District. The property owner acquired the property and built a new home in 2018. A new accessory structure will be built to accommodate the seasonal landscape business as part of this IUP. Walking through the report, on page 3, you'll see the important definitions and applicable code sections. Page 4 discusses the necessary requirements that the applicant must meet to address the codes for a home-based business and a home extended business. Page 5 and 6 outline the specifics such as noise, equipment that the business and that the business is incidental to the residential use. So the primary use of this property will not be a business, it is still remaining as a residential. The business will be a secondary use, and then also hours of operation. Page 7 continues in regards to the home-based business requirements, addresses the traffic, and that no signs will be on the property. So there won't be typical business setup, as this is a home extended and doesn't use those same practices. Page 8 and 9 go into the criteria of an IUP permit. They are very similar, if not the same, to a conditional use permit, so it'll reference back to those codes. This identifies that the proposed project is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the land uses, and will not burden the public services or the city infrastructure for this. Page 10 provides council the options of approving, denying, or tabling this item with template motions that follow. Page 11 are the suggested findings and conditions that are recommendations for approval. The applicant is here to answer any questions or concerns, otherwise I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, 150 acres you stated, right?
Correct.
Okay, and this is for a conditional use permit for 15 years?
An interim use permit, so the difference,
Interim use,
yep, so it will follow and stay with the landowner and the use, unlike a conditional use permit which stays with the land. So this will expire if the business is no longer operating after 6 months. If it fails to meet our requirements, the city would have the ability to revoke it.
Okay. And as far as employees, it's only him and his wife, I believe, from what I've read, or am I wrong on that?
Mayor and council, I would recommend that Mr. Dankert answer the questions. In the use permit, it does talk about 2 additional employees, but he can clarify those.
That is correct. 2 additional employees.
And so do you have a separate structure to house all this equipment and everything there now?
Right now, I do not. We don't have any buildings yet. We just built the house in late of 2018. So we're waiting for, prior approval before building the building.
Is that your goal though, to put up?
We need a building.
Yeah.
And it's really just for maintenance in the winter and winter storage. I mean, obviously in the summer it'll get still used, but it's not so much for employees to use, it's more for me to store equipment and do maintenance in the winter.
Yeah, and their operational hours would
7 to 7 is the maximum, but I mean typically we work from 7 to 5, so I put that down.
okay.
So
Yeah, I'm not concerned because 150 acres, I mean, you're not in a city lot, so you have plenty of room out there. But this was kind of curious, because I know I actually think you were 19 years in East Bethel from what I read something.
correct. We were on in a residential neighborhood, 2 acre minimum.
Wow.
I was the furthest house or the last house in. I did have 10 acres, but only 2.5 usable. And there we had 0.37 acres that was dedicated to business, 0.37.
So are you bringing, I'm just curious, are you adding more equipment on than you
We're
did?
really not. We're really not. I've been doing this 20 years. I suspect I have 15 years left that I want to do this business if I have to. So says the government. But I don't plan on making the business bigger, but I definitely don't want any problems, and obviously with that much property, we should.
So you're in the one location, East Bethel, for 19 years?
Yeah, at our residence, we have an IUP there.
And no problems with
No problems, with an exception of the city organizer felt it was time after 20 years that she move us to her industrial park, so we could build up her, and grow with the city.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a $3 million project, and I couldn't afford that. So we're seasonal, 6 months on, 6 months out type of business.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, 150 acres, I mean, your neighbors are going to be far, far few between, thank you. So,
Yes.
okay. Emil, is there any discussion? Joe, any questions you have?
I was just curious, have you reviewed the recommended conditions that staff has, probably that we're looking at here, in the packet at all, or?
I would imagine so, being that we fill out the application.
I was just curious if you had any issues with any of them.
Well, I mean, they're strict, but that's what we've had over at the other property. Yeah, 2 employees is all we need around, plus myself. So, with it, yeah.
And the city does have the ability to come and inspect when needed, or?
Correct, Mayor and Council, part of a CUP or an IUP application is that the city does have that ability to come and inspect, because there are the guidelines that are set forth that these businesses are to be following, or these land use applications are to follow.
No reflection on you, but that's the policies.
No, I'm 20-year veteran into this, so I know how the city is, and that's the exact same policy.
Did the city of East Bethel, I'm just curious, did they come out and
They came out every year,
Oh, really?
believe it or not. Whether I seen boots on the ground or not, I only recall one instance that I seen them. Most of the time they do drive by, I would imagine, but they had their issues 3 years we had to renew with them, that was just their policy. But every 3 years when I went to, to do the renewal, they thought we were a new business. They had no prior paperwork showing that we've been in business with them since 2001.
Over 6 periods of time like that?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Now, with newer people, I think it's better run over there, but I had proved my, the good thing is we took great notes and kept all our meetings, but each time I had to prove myself.
I'll pass this on to the next council member, Jory Dillon.
Yeah.
Okay, because the only, and I'm not gonna state this about you, because it sounds like you've been in business 19 years and you're finding the city does work out well. Our only concern, of course, is these big, huge acreage lots and a lot of trash and junk and stuff like that. I'm not saying you would do that.
No.
But that is, basically what happens is one entity you're put in a situation by someone else making a problem that the policy has to affect you too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're gonna do that,
Okay.
but we have other houses on acreage lots that seem to get carried away with trash and stuff
Oh, I
like
can
that.
imagine, yeah.
And you've got a sizable hunk of land there, so.
Yeah.
Kevin, anything to say?
I attended in the capacity of liaison for the council, heard all the really no cons. I'm welcoming free enterprise and entrepreneurship in our city, and this is really not much different than the farm situation. My only concern was any fuel storage, and he answered those questions probably, as required, whether a vault is needed for on-site capacity for bobcats and whatnot. But other than that, I welcome you.
Yeah, I agree. Rob?
I welcome you as well. My only concern is heavier equipment leaving the lot
Yep.
and 71 curve. Is the driveway on the left side or the right side, or?
You're talking 71 curves south on new to the area, so.
Yeah, well, 24 is Ambassador. The
Okay.
lot comes across there and then it curves
Isn't that much fun?
28. 28. The curve to 71.
So right now, I estimate I'm 300 yards from there, which is almost 1,000 feet from that curve.
Okay.
So obviously, I mean, we're proportioned as far as entering and exiting the driveway. I feel that's not gonna, stop or evade traffic. And that's just the start of the curve. I kind of did some analysis before we dropped off property.
Perfect.
We were unhappy that the driveway was in a certain location. However, in dealing with the buying of the property, we found out we don't even own that driveway anyways. That driveway was on the neighbor's property by 100 feet. So luckily, we ended up moving, to be exact, 433 feet to the west, which also gave us more access away from that difficult turn. I mean, it's a new street, but it's got some driveways there and whatnot, so we've got to be careful. And already I'm finding out how difficult the Ambassador 47 intersection is. So we're going to try to avoid that by, probably head south, whatever that road is going south. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about.
71.
Monitor, yeah. So, I mean, it is very, and there's not a ton of population out that way, but I mean, it is a growing area. So I'm open to hearing any.
Yeah, 24 is not too much better anyway, because it's on a big curve.
All the curves, and I mean, the speed from our vehicles, I mean, we're 20% less than some of the other, of all the other traffic anyways. I feel, just in the years of my experience, generally everybody's falling behind me and everybody needs the one on the truck trailer that'll be with us. So I kind of set the pace. But I have an excellent record. Todd can look it up for David.
That's my only concern is I don't know the size of your vehicles and stuff, and the best way to enter and not exit that lot. So
Everything with MnDOT has to be up to date. I mean, we have to pass the inspection daily, before we leave the property.
perfect.
I mean, it's just all eyes on us, the commercial guys, and every year it's worse and worse, which tends to be better and better for the community. Even, vehicles that are well maintained on the highways.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Welcome.
Well, I just want to welcome to St. Francis.
Thank you.
No, and I just want to say that, because I know planning and zoning did it by 7-0 vote on that. I was really impressed with that. It sounds, and it looks like to me you're really responsible. 19 years in a city, on a smaller lot.
Correct. I mean, that was tough. That was very tough. I mean, just because
How did you do it? I mean,
how did I do it? Well, first of all, we keep a very beautiful property. I'm very anal as far as taking us, with cleanliness. so you keep talking on property, I mean, pay your taxes, pay your bills, be at one with the community, definitely get out and be with the community and the neighbors and do stuff for them, help them out.
Can we clone this attitude and give it to some people?
I mean, it's easy for me to come up here tonight, as long as I've got a good crowd. I mean, just because I've had such a good, long reputation in the neighborhood. With an exception of, the community leader at East Bethel wanting me to, maybe pay more taxes and introduce myself into her. I'm sure you guys own commercial lots maybe, where she wants, she feels like I've been in the community that long, everybody likes me, let's push me over here. It was time, she said, for our trucks to be on a residential road or, a city street and stuff. I mean, to not have people call up and complaints, I mean, just the employees coming in the neighborhood every day, I mean, they have strict, rules to come in and leave, 20 miles an hour max. One incident, they're gone. I mean, and I unfortunately had to let some guys go because they tested me, in 20 years and 19 years. So I don't want one complaint. And if I hear from it, if I'm walking around at night with the dog and the wife, and I run into a neighbor and I hear about it, I mean, you're going to hear about it. We were a tight community there. And none of the neighbors had any problems. That's why we were there for so long. It's the neighbors, in that community that are self-regulating me. If there's one problem, they're going to call the city, and the city's going to bring a hammer down, obviously. So.
Yeah, I've always said laws aren't made for the people who obey them, they're for the ones who don't obey them. And so our problems with junk and stuff like this and multiple vehicles, everything, again, no reflection upon you, but we have that problem. So that's a concern, but it sounds like you're responsible enough, and I welcome you for 19 plus years here. And wish I could clone your attitude, because that's a great attitude.
Oh, I know. And it comes from just a good background, good upbringing. I mean, that's, it all stems down to day one, so.
I agree. Well, welcome. Thank you for your answers. So moving on, do I have a motion to adopt interim use permit for home occupation 6032 Ambassador Boulevard, resolution 2019-20?
I'll make that motion subject to the recommendations on pages 11 and 12.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Neubauer. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilmember Robinson makes that second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item B here, 2020 to 2022 Urban County Requalification Participation.
Mayor and Council, in your packet is a report to identify the options the city has in regarding the participation with the federal block grant programs. Currently, we're part of Anoka County's urban requalification that requires that we renew this agreement every 3 years. Being that the city has property in both Isanti and Anoka County, we have the options of making what's considered a split city decision in regards to who we participate and who we look to this opportunity for. I've outlined the 3 options to continue with either Anoka County split between the 2 counties or go with Isanti County. Tonight I'm asking council to identify which program they would like to follow. Staff recommends staying with the Anoka County program, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, I happen to agree with that myself, so I'm going to turn this over to Rob. Any questions you have on it?
No, I kind of agree with the Anoka County 100%.
Well,
That's it, sir.
Kevin?
Full agreement, no county.
Pretty easy there, Kate.
City.
Do I want to clarify that date and the motion on this, that it's going to be for the option with the Anoka County?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I need a motion to adopt the 2020-2022 Urban County Requalification Participation with Anoka County.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Goodman makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Bauer makes that second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. Thank you, Kate. Okay, moving on to tonight here with the work session. First question I have is, what is the work session for?
I was just talking to Kate about this earlier. A number of land use issues, the park and Rivers Edge development, the East Shop site, and there were several others that
Okay.
might not be able to come about right now, but generally land use issues.
Okay. All right, it's not gonna be a party then. Okay. What date would you like it to be?
April 22nd, but if at all possible. Kate's gonna be out of town for
Oh, that's right,
the
yeah.
coming week, so I was thinking it's kind of soon she gets back.
Okay. Does everybody's, what are you talking about, 5:30 you're talking about, something like that?
Yeah, whatever
Over
works.
at City Hall? Okay, so everybody pull out their headphones, like I'm sure you are. Does the 22nd work for everybody?
As of now, I don't have any conflicts.
Kevin?
Yep, I'm fine.
Yeah?
That's
Sarah?
school board meetings, that if they start at 5:30, it's probably school.
Okay.
Otherwise, I just watch it later.
Okay, all right. All right, so let's go, let's see, work session. We'll go to work session. And we'll go to City Hall. And we'll go 5:30. And, let's see. Okay, so Joe, is that okay with you then?
Yep.
Okay, so the 22nd, 4th, 22, 5:30 p.m. at City Hall. Okay, works this. All right, very good, thank you, everybody. So much easier, isn't it, like this? Okay. All right, appreciate that, thank you. All right, moving on to the DNR variance request.
Well, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, follow up with the information we brought to you in the past. The DNR did require that we send out this notice in your packet to every property owner within 350 feet from the affected area. I figured this is probably going to be best. I just walked through the PowerPoint. I figured there'd be people from the community here with questions, and the DNR's legal notice might not be completely clear to everybody, and so if we just kind of walk through it, I think it'll be helpful for everyone. Basically, in 1978, the Rum River adopted the Wild and Scenic Overlay District. There's, they don't refer to them specifically as rural and urban, but basically there's two different sections to this overlay zoning district. It's, we'll just refer to them as urban and rural for discussion purposes. Basically, the rural standard, which kind of applies to the northern portion of the city along the Rum River, allows for 1 unit per 2.5 acres. The urban district, which applies now currently to the southern portion of the city, would allow for more 2 or 3 units per acre type housing. So what basically the request from the city to the DNR is to make the rural portion in the northern half consistent with the urban density that the southern portion of the city currently has. So the northern portion, as outlined in the maps we'll walk through, would have an urban density for 2 or 3 units per acre, as opposed with 1 acre per 1 unit per 2.5 acres. So hopefully these maps will clear it up a little bit here. But basically, just kind of a rundown of what I just went over there. The rural impact, that density it's not conducive to provide water and sewer utilities to. The urban impact, that density would lend itself to be consistent with the city council's financial and land use policies in the past to expand the MUSA, or municipal urban service area, if you will, of expanding water and sewer further out in the city and creating more users in a denser district. So what that means here is this portion up here in the red, everyone within 350 feet, that lives within 350 feet of that district got a notice. That is currently the rural zone overlay district. In the blue, can't really see it too well with the river, that's kind of the urban designation. This development right here, just going above that red line, that's current Rivers Edge development, that's what triggered this whole review with city staff. They ran into, they would not be able to provide a dense development that they were proposing. And upon further review with the DNR, they said that we had to get some variances in order to allow that denser development. And the city has long had a policy of this general area being within the future MUSA, or that's where the city utilities were going to extend to in the future. So this is consistent with council policies that have been adopted for quite some time. This might show a little bit more clearly. So the city utilities are in purple here. You can see, and this is that development I was talking about. This is the particular area that he's looking to extend utilities into, and that's what triggered this whole review. As you can see, the utilities are creeping closer and closer to this rural designated district. Therefore, the city, in order to continue that extension of the water and sewer utilities, had to apply for this variance, and that's why everybody got noticed, so that we can have a denser development and more water and sewer users and grow our population. So what does the rest of the Rum River look like? Basically, the green areas are going to be that rural designation that I just, where you get 1 year unit per 2.5 acres. The red is going to be the urban designation. As you can see, I think that is the city of Dinoka. All of their city is exempt from it, or they have that urban classification. Ours is split just north here. I believe that's Cambridge, if I'm not mistaken. They have some urban designation. So the area in question is this yellow portion. That's what we're going to try to change to red, which is now currently green. So that's the subject area, and that's within the context of the this portion of the Rum River Overlay District anyway. So what to do now? I think the city council's policies have been pretty clear in that they intend to run utilities north along both sides of the river, up 47, up into this general vicinity. So the DNR decision, I think, is going to be based on feedback of the residents. And so I think, while there was a notice sent to property owners around that particular district, any resident can comment, and I think financially speaking, it's definitely in the utility user's best interest to get this DNR variance approved, because that would add more utility users onto the system and help pay for the water and sewer plant that we constructed. And if that is the case, and I think that utility users and both the city will push this out there a little bit in the days to come here, we would have to email Dan Petrick at this email right here, and then I just drafted some basic language saying that they would fully support, if they fully support the variance request. The requested variances from the administrative rules relating to the wild and scenic recreational rivers. And so I told they're definitely going to pay attention to public feedback. So I think it's absolutely critical if the city wants to move forward with past policies that have been created for this expansion of the utilities, to get the word out there to residents to email this particular individual with at least some similar language to this if the city hopes to move forward. As I said, in the next couple of days, we'll probably put something out on Facebook, and I guess we're going to be relying strongly on word of mouth from council and residents to again promote that and hopefully the adoption of these variances so that the dense urban area of the city can expand for the future. So with that, I'll certainly answer any questions people might have.
Well, what I want to say is, as you stated here, is it would either to stay rural, you get one house on 2.5 acres. On urban, you get 4 houses on an acre. The key is the city's been moving in a direction more urban than rural over the last years. We built a wastewater treatment facility to suffice that growth. And the more I've said all along in every newsletter I've written and every chance I get to say that the only way to reduce these rates is with long-term reputable development and increasing our user base. That's the only way we're going to do it. I mean, I just read an article within that region. They have 109 million users on their system. They're building a 9th regional facility coming up here to service Corcoran and Rogers and Dayton. But they're going to just purchase the one in Rogers. I think for 10 years they're going to keep that running for $75 million a day, and they process 250 million gallons of waste a day. I don't know if we're ever gonna get to that size, but what we can do is increase the user base through long-term reputable development. And the key to that is changing this designation as far back as 40-some plus years ago to urban. So I can't emphasize enough of how important this really is. And really, the notice went out to you people out in the 350-foot range, but it really has to do with new and future development. It doesn't have to do with what in their area that I know of. But it has to do with new and future developments like River's Edge, right in play right now, and proposed developments that aren't on the table yet, but hopefully will come down the road here. Our whole thought as a council, I know, discussions we've had, is to increase the population to around 10,000 in the next 5 years or so, 10 years. To go beyond that to a higher population of 12.5, we will have to expand our municipal urban service area, our MUSA, which is a big cost factor. And to do that, by the way, we will need more tax dollars. So it all is a domino effect. Increasing our users, our residents here will reduce our rates, which will bring more property revenue in, or tax revenue in rather, and stages for future growth if it ever gets to that point where we are going to need a MUSA expansion, which at this particular point in time, we're not even thinking about that now. I think this, one thing I think all council members and staff would agree with is we don't want to lose the identity of St. Francis, which was a real small town effect. We want to grow intelligently, but we can appreciate the old and the new together. So I am for this completely. I think it was something that got lost in the shuffle over the last 40-some years ago. I'm not going to place blame here, but I will say to you that this is something really important. We're only 24 square miles with wetlands and areas. We don't really have a lot of growth factor. And this is about 500 acres under play right now with this decision. So I know I'm going to put it on the St. Francis Post. I'm hoping we'll get it out there on the Facebook pages everywhere we can, and the people know how important this is. And your input will hopefully make this decision for us. Otherwise, the only choices we have is to try to get, I know Speaker Representative Dowd now is on board to help us out. This is one of his recommendations to do just this. Otherwise, he said he could probably do an amendment type of thing like that, or hopefully if it comes to that. Otherwise, the other choice would be to go to the courts. That will only take time factors, and then of course the economy's in play and everything else. So hopefully, this is where your voice can be heard. So I would reach out when you find out how to reach out as fast as you can, the best you can, and sign up for this, because our ultimate goal is that 20% reduction. We want to make more reduction in the wastewater fees. That's why we just, the good news is we just had found out last week as Oak Grove's council meeting last week that they are going to become part of our facility, our regional facility. So we are doing some local regionalization now, adding 222 more residents from the pound to our system, which increases our 1,687 and adds another 222, but we'll still have 1,181 connections available with our wastewater treatment facility. So this really plays an important part here. So I can't emphasize it enough that when you find out these notices are to communicate with this gentleman, please do so. Sarah, I'll start with you.
No, I just want to reiterate what you said. I think we'll all do our best to get this word out, and hopefully people will take the 3 to 5 minutes it's going to take to email, and we can move forward with this, because this would obviously be the best plan.
And again, emphasizing what Joe Combs told me is that as you put it in here, I mean, by doing so, you affect your pocketbook. Because the more users we have, those rates will go down, and we'll have more smiles on people's faces with those base. We got in 2 years ago, and on my second term now, to reduce those rates over time. The only way again to do that is through long-term reputable development, increasing the user base. That's how you do it, without raising taxes. Rob?
Well, I really would like to see what the residents' concerns are about this. I do agree with progress, and I kind of support it right now. Reading the information that I have, I really want to hear what the residents that came in have to say.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, I think I'm all for this, and I look forward to reaching out to the people to try to get them to send that email. Interested to hear what the residents have to say, as well as I think we all are. I think unfortunately with the wastewater facility, the way the town is structured, we're half urban, half rural, or part and part. We ended up building that facility when we built it. We also have to grow, I think, more than some might like, in order to suffice that cost and to pay for it. So I think it's a tough position to be in, but I do also know with the developer, what he has planned for the area that is affected, it's not extremely dense, so I think that's a good thing as well. But we'll discuss it and we'll see how it goes with the variance and what the people have to say and how much effort we're all willing to put in.
Well, I know the emphasis has been on the city pocketbook, but I would think the emphasis should be on the land use and the river. The river is a long-term resource and it's enjoyed by many, many citizens as well as people outside the St. Francis area. But again, as to dovetail in, the builder has been thoughtful with the lots that are already on along the river. And I think what should be focused on is what's I'll call it the second tier of residences that'll be inside from that circle. The DNR already requires buffer zones, and there's a lot of input and ramifications put on a builder when they build near or on a water source. So I think primary is the fact that it's a beautiful resource and needs to be valued, and I think the builder has done that thoughtfully so far. And after looking at this, our pocketbooks will, or the city will gain something from this as far as extending. But again, let's look backwards too. The houses that are right along the river in a lot of areas and along stationary waterways, their sewers are leaching into those water surfaces. So any advancement that we can make with a sewer line into a housing development like that is beneficial to the longevity of a river like that. So money secondary, waterway first, money secondary. But again, the way the design of the development is going to take place, it looks like that's been thought about by the developer and the people that are already on there. You can take a drive down there. It's a very beautiful area, and the homes that are along there, it's very nice. So that's my thought.
I want to add to that in the years since the two biggest facilities that we built in the city were 2008 the water treatment plant, 2017 the wastewater treatment facility. Okay, and that was all based on growth that was projected. Okay. Now, since we've seen this rural differentiation between rural and urban, that kind of restricts the growth we can put with that wastewater treatment facility. We are going to be good stewards of the river because we want to promote the river for our city, through our city, and utilize that ability of the Rum River being what it is. One of the things that's always, flabbergasted me dealing with riverbank residents, as you are here right now, is that when we try to get that grant money for you, that they didn't see, right now the stormwater runoff, I know right there's a culvert pipe that goes into the Rum River right next to Mike Blood's house, right on the side there. And I mean, so you get that runoff there into the river, and they're so concerned about the river, but they don't mind that running into the river, which kind of always, I never understood. With this new plan that we have for Riverbank now, that will all be alleviated, and you won't have any runoff going to the Rum River, which I think is a very good thing, as you mentioned. Also, with the developments being urban versus rural, you have water pipes, sewer pipes in there that will take that waste off of that site and process it into the wastewater facility. And that processing there gets dumped in the Sealy Brook, which is a tributary of the Rum River. But we are processed so clean with that water that we are actually cleaner than the water we put it into. That only shows, I hope, that the DNR will understand how concerned we are with the Rum River, and that we want to be good stewards of that river. So to me, taking those developments, taking that processing of that waste off-site instead of on-site, and the fact that a septic field can leach over time makes it more vulnerable to the river, I think would be a good thing here. And like I say again, the difference between the city in 1977-78 to today is, again, a wastewater treatment facility that's state-of-the-art and a water treatment plant. So those two things in play make this city different. I really believe that the way to grow the city is the trend is to go to urban, but we don't want to forget the rural effect that we have. That's important to the city. That small town effect, we like that. I think all residents, I know I moved here for that. And I know I can tell you other people that I've talked to over campaign time said the same thing to me. So, but once again, like I say, with Riverbank, it just, when we didn't get the grant money, of course we didn't get the grant money because it was underfunded. For years that it was underfunded. You have multiple cities, 275 cities applying for it, and they had to go strictly by the requirements. But I always thought it was kind of a thing that they may not have understood, is that you're allowing stormwater runoff and stuff in the street to run into the river. You're not concerned about erosion or that, but you're concerned about this. Why not have your cake and eat it too? And we could do that with the revamping of Riverbank area, which we are planning to do, and we could do that with changing this to urban and connecting the sewer lines in there and getting that waste and processing it off-site, which I think is a real good way for being a responsible city and doing it the right way. On that, we will open up for meeting, open to the public after this, but we want to get this going, so.
Sure, yeah. You know, I don't know that we need to approve anything. It was kind of just to give an overview of all the notices that were sent out. This is our first opportunity to meet with council, and the reason why we had to pick those out is we're on a clock, and we wanted to make sure that the 60-day DNR review ended before the legislature, so that if they did not rule favorably, then we still.
And that's May 21st, I believe, right? Something like that?
Yeah. So we had to kind of get going, and this is the first opportunity to get an overview, and I think we're gonna, like I said, rely heavily on council and residents to get the word out there.
Right, and I just want to emphasize again, council and staff and public, that this would be the best way to do it, okay, for public input, because they do listen, okay? The next step, of course, is an amendment, just before the legislative session ends, may not happen, could happen, but that can be tight. And then, of course, the next one after that is to go to court. And that can tie it up for a long time, and then we'll miss out on some of the development we haven't played now, and that would be a concern. So, you know, like I say, you know, one of the thoughts we had with getting Elk Grove on was to get local regionalization. We've also been in communication, had tours with the council at our facility. Hopefully down the road, someday down that, when that will be, I have no idea, or does this body have any idea about that? So this is a start here, and this development here would start a good increase to our users on our system. So yes, we have to be responsible, and we are being responsible with the plan we built. Maybe had this been known earlier or come to light earlier, this plan would have been built on a smaller scale, but it wasn't, and now we have to deal with it. So we'll deal with it in a prudent, responsible way. So on that, I think you have direction. We're going to get this out to the public as far as Facebook, other post pages that we can do, and get it out so people understand how important this really is. Thank you, staff and everybody on this, and let's hope for the best. Remember, hope is a good thing. All right, I don't want to quote the whole movie, but I'll quote that. Anthony, okay, so I'm going to open this up to get you open to the public. Please come up and state your name and address and concern.
Sean Davis is the first one.
You need to put a second name on the list?
Yep.
Sure.
State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor Council. Pat Peterson at 4203 Burbank Lane. So I think some of the reason we're here tonight is this is all relatively new to us. I guess I'm more or less here as a fact finder tonight, trying to understand what the process and what this implications are. I mean, I was not agree with you 100%. I think Nancy's number one here, that's the reason I moved into this community. I moved into the Bremer area. I just hate to see that lost at this one time. As I read through, I guess, with the variance, talks about, you know, the 70-foot case, lot widths, 75 foot back from the river. I mean, I have a hard time distinguishing what that really looks like. I mean, part of it says you can't see the developments from the river, but to me, a 75 foot back building site should be very visible from many aspects of the river, especially where we live here. And we live on a gradually slope up our river, not high bank area. We think that's an entirely detrimental visible aspect of the entire land use for So, in talking to the neighbor resident that owns a number of the acres under this consideration, I guess there's questions on what this looks like. Will this be a rezoning effort as well? This variance is allowed?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. For future consideration on?
If I can get back to my.
Well, I haven't heard of.
No, I mean, the city is just, I mean, it may take a whole another 10, 20, I think 2040 we go out to until we cover that whole area. So I mean, this is looking out very, very far in the future, and we're just at the southern tip of this particular district at this point.
Another area we're in is the 2030 plan. So I mean, it's only 10 years out, I guess that it does. So the key question for me is to understand what that exactly means. But, you know, reading through this, to me, half is the wrong way. I know there's mention about a lot of land being used as agricultural reasons, purposes which it is. So a lot of that land is leased agricultural land. I think the people there that talked to are wondering who's going to be, like I said, rezoned at some point in time. Will it be impossible basically to maintain ownership of some of those lands with the current zoning aspects and farming practices?
Council and Mayor, I think some of the questions that I've heard also coming in, This is just a notification process for the district as a whole. Really, the only development in play is that one on the southeast side of the river. So until either a landowner sells or chooses to develop themselves, this could be 50 to 100 years out before it's actually divided. Until it's actually divided or rezoned, it's gonna remain as it is. So if a property owner maintains the 40 acres, until they either sell it or choose to part that up, that's when we would be looking at rezoning, adding water and sewer. So it's not being forced north, it's just changing it so we can have that conversation to go north.
I guess the concern is, once the variance is granted, rezoning has been a possibility, and it might obviously raise property tax to the point where it's, the owners today are incapable of maintaining the land as it is, right? So I think that's an inevitability a lot of people see in this current plan.
Rezoning alone doesn't change property taxes, it would take the development to change those property taxes.
I think there's still concern that there's going to be significant pressure to develop those lands when we're rezoning. Is that fair enough? So,
And I think it, yeah.
so there's some concern about the local residents that have in this matter.
Yeah, but you understand something, I mean, things change and growth happens. So I mean, what you bought 20 years ago may last 20 more years, may last 40 more years, may not. I mean, things change. You're right now, there's nothing pertaining to Riverbank right now in this idea of going from rural to urban, nothing.
Well, I guess I have a question about that. You mentioned both sides of the river, you're saying services north. I mean, something else that's on the agenda tonight is our rural rail has been a sore subject for a number of years now. You know, before we sign up for a $10,000 plus liability per household now, or house unit, what is our plan? What is the 2030 plan of urban? Right? Is this also the plan as well to get water and sewer in there, or are we doing the full quality to do the roads we're currently, right?
Well, I can probably speak to this. I know from what our conversation at work sessions, we have no idea of bringing use to your area. You know, we want to just solve your problem on drainage and asphalt that gravel is what we planned on. And we've been talking about it for over a year and a half now.
Mayor, I understand. I've been at the meetings. I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate the council's talking and all that stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk about the cost increase maybe over the day.
On the 15th of April, next council meeting.
Fair enough. Yes. You know, the question I guess remains for us is, what is the plan for our area? And I think that's our general concern, because there's multiple plans in play here. We just want to know what's the implication for us. You know, we live in this area on Riverbank Lane for a specific reason, right? For the neighbors, for the national aspects and everything else, and we're seeing considerable movement in those areas, potential movement. I think the unknown factors are really scary now. And so, to understand what this 2030 development plan is, what these implications are, really helps.
Sure, so basically, if this extends, this red area, so you are, I don't know if that's the national conversation. Are you right here? Right.
Yeah.
I'm the last house in the block, so the furthest one west.
Okay, so this red area, which is, it looks like, I don't know if it's with that urban area that we're talking about. This whole red area can now, if this variance goes through, can be developed with the density that you see down here in this urban area, potentially.
Is that the 500 acres you're talking about?
This red area is 500 acres, and so right now,
Red area only.
within the DNR rules in this overlay, you can only have 1 unit per 2.5 acres.
I think we all understand that part, but it's, like I said, the additional aspects to the visible nature aspect.
It's going to unfold over time as these plans get developed, and I know that's not a very concrete answer, but I can't predict. So right here, like again, this southern tip is where we're seeing the development pressure right now today. We do not see it anywhere up here or anywhere in here as of today. If you go, I think our utilities are stubbed on the west side of the river right here.
Yep.
So if you're talking about when are they going to come up over here, probably going to be a while. I don't know, I don't know about leapfrog development. It seems logical that it would extend naturally. That's not always the case, but it is definitely quite a ways away from where you're located at this time. But that's the overall direction, is to get a denser 2 to 3 units per acre like on the urban core.
Oh, and I was just gonna say too, as far as plans for your area, we were just looking at the drainage issue. That's the only plans we have, and we only address that because people brought it to our attention. I think too, as far as there was discussion that, I don't know if you read that, one of the earlier work sessions too, where former council member brought up, well, should we put pipes in the ground for this in the future and all that? And that wasn't even a thought in my mind. I can't necessarily speak for everybody else, but I think too, you're gonna let pipes sit and rot in the ground when there's no future plans for that area to extend that kind of thing. And I think Sean brought up too previously, that, you know, they were like, so you guys are gonna bring sewer and water and all this stuff here too? And if you didn't say that, I'm sorry, but I think I remember you bringing it up previously too, so, there's no other plan for your area on the west side of the river other than trying to look at that drainage like we have.
Lisa, here's the background definition, and I just understand what dedication might be on them. So I appreciate the input, I appreciate the insight. I only had a couple days to get up to speed with this.
It does understand, like as I mentioned earlier about municipal extension, you know, municipal urban service area, that's a costly factor. And we're nowhere near being able to afford that today. When the future, if in the future, I have no idea.
Well, in either way, right? I mean, I believe last estimate was $30,000 to $50,000 something per household. So it's,
On your site, you mean, in your area? Yeah, right, and we decided not to do that at all, it's cost prohibitive. We looked at it, but knew it was too much money.
I understand, but please understand kind of the kinking of the back here. I mean, you guys are talking about extending services north. We just don't know what kind of time frame that is, if it's accelerated or whatnot. It's hard for us not knowing how to plan, right? We moved in under certain pretenses in there, right? With the nature, the current landscape as it is, first changes would occur, right? Even now we're talking over $10,000 per household, right? We're really going. One, understanding what that money's going towards and what the future is, right? Is that the first down the hall?
Well, right now, again, the only concern we have with Riverbank is your drainage problem, is all we have.
And that's fair enough. We're going to continue, I think, to push this, understand what that future roadmap, if you have a 2030 through 2040 roadmap, I think we're asking fair questions on what that looks like.
And just to let you know, we'll have a 2050 and a 2060 every 10 years. That's what. And by the way, it doesn't mean that roadmap pans out. It's just a guideline.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate that. But still, that's also a lot of concern and questions, right? Because of the roadmaps to the system.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name's Sean Davis, 243 Riverbank. I guess I just had a couple questions on the same issue with the map that was sent along to the DNR. It's really comprehensive online. The densities that were in the plans that in that packet, it's basically all the densities match the urban. It's hard to tell, you know, the cross hatching and the coloring is different, but that seemed to be more dense than 3 or 4 units per acre. I believe it was, to me, it was like 5 to 7, which was basically consistent with all the rest of it. You know, as you stated, so I just wanted to make a little clarification on that. Also, just kind of off the bat, I'm opposed. My main concern is river, wildlife, things like that. It seems like it could be maybe better thought out, and I get that as a plan for the future, but those are my concerns. Let's see what else I had. Oh, the mayor was commenting on the current project on Riverbank, and my understanding that we're not getting sewer and water, and it's other. We're okay with not getting the water into the river, but that's what the current plan.
We're not doing it. We're going to do a whole drainage to a holding pond system.
And then go to the river. So it's still going to the river. I mean, it's just maybe semantics, maybe I'm hearing you wrong, but it just seems like it's a drainage system again. The water's still going to the river.
And it's amazing to me how the Rummer, they accept that on one end of the Rummer, they don't accept it on another part of the Rummer. So we're doing better than what you had, and getting rid of your gravel road to an asphalt road in conjunction with drainage.
Correct. And it's 28% higher is what I'm.
Well, that's for discussion next.
Right,
council.
yeah, and I'll leave that to that, so. And now another clarification, the letter that we received today about that work group, is that, it's not a work group, the next council meeting, is that to decide options, is that to decide we're going forward, we're not going forward, is that kind of the final deal? But we had a kicker on that 10% number, where if that estimate came back higher, nothing would happen, something would happen.
Well, we're definitely gonna discuss it. We've looked at some options and, we'll bring it forth to you at that meeting.
Can I speak to that, Mr. Mayor, please? Just so you're aware, that is the official assessment hearing. So the project as bid will be presented, and then the council, of course, that's where you be able to participate in the meeting. But that is the meeting that the council will determine whether you're gonna move forward or not.
So they could just go forward as well. That's an option.
That is the meeting though, that is that. This is the last step. Either
Okay.
goes forward or doesn't move forward. Or council can table it. But that is the intent of the next meeting.
Okay. I think some of the confusion, sorry, back to the variance and the 2030 plan. Again, the documentation from the DNR's website, the paperwork that was submitted, it does state, and that's where some of the residents, I believe, on our street anyways, have concern that by 2030, all the rural portions would be hooked up to sewer and water. That's what it says on that. Yes.
So maybe I should step back a little bit here. All this barrier does, by removing this barrier, is makes it potential for a density that allows for water and sewer. We could very well get a rural development to come in right here tomorrow and say, well, you know what, we don't have the resources to run water and sewer up there, and then that would be a well and septic. The removal of this rural designation doesn't necessitate that it's an urban density, it just allows for that density.
Where now it's restricted.
Right now, you can't do it there.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, I think it's also important to point out that if we have a development come through, there is an opportunity. We send out the same notices to the 350 foot. So if a development came through the planning process, you would have that same eligibility to have comment in the public hearing. So.
Yeah, I wish they required more than a 350 foot, because I don't know how many letters they have sent it out, but it doesn't look like many. The people that I've talked to in Greater St. Francis say, why would we kind of endanger our best resource, wildlife, and those things when you got land over there, you got land over there, you got land over there. We only got so much north-south. There's other ways to go. So, if anybody doesn't agree, maybe those people could push people to make their voice heard as well. Last thing I wanted to say was, Paul's not here, but I thought Public Works, but I have a job this winter. I for a living in the public sector, and I left my house at 12:30 in the morning. And I have a problem getting out until I get safe.
And think how nice that'll be when you got a paved road.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Wait, Joe, how many letters were sent out then?
Do you know the total count that percent?
I think there was roughly 66 letters. Everybody that had property within the rural district, and then all of the properties that were within 350 feet from the borders. So there's a lot of multiple property owners in there, but I think it was roughly 66 letters.
66, okay. It just kind of helps gauge participation and compare to correspondence sent, so. But that, I'm glad you're here though. Involvement's the best thing of all.
Always have your voice heard. Always.
Michael Nickler, 2431 River Bankway, been there since 1995. Well, give you a little history. When I bought the home years ago, a realtor that knew me personally, knew that I liked wildlife and stuff, advised me about this home. And it was much further north than I wanted to come from, right, curving into Ramsey. But me and the dog and need a place to live because my ex and her lawyers are forcing me out of the house. The realtor says, you got a house in the river for you, your price tag, which was well under $800,000. I laughed at it. Laughed. I said, you can't buy a lot in the Ron River for that price. And I didn't recheck it. Came back, I made him recheck it again. And I went out to look at it. Then I found out that those lots on Riverbank Lane were platted prior to the city of Riverbank. And they were grandfathered. Okay? So I've been here 20-some years. Now I hear the city of St. Francis. This is the way I'm hearing you. You want to change the regulations of the City of Wild River Act because you got a problem with the cost of your wastewater treatment system. Now, I sympathize with those people who have to pay those extraordinary rates because somebody made some poor plans. But I don't see why the city of St. Francis, or any city in the state of Minnesota, or on any of these city boards, should be asking for a variance. Because there was a reason for this regulation, this federal regulation, by former Senator and Vice President Mondale and Representative Bento and thousands of other people, was to preserve these waterways and to keep them from overdevelopment and exploitation, which has historically been the case in all the United States. So the way I look at it now, you want the river to pay for your wastewater treatment.
That's not true.
No. Hold on here. I'm speaking now, and you'll get your chance.
Not true.
That's my opinion, I said. That's what I'm seeing, because every single one of you up here tonight emphasized that. Okay? I'm just telling you what I heard from you people yourself. You made a reference to Anoka. I'm willing to bet that everything that you go down in Anoka and most of Ramsey that is on the river that does not comply with the City of River Act is the same as my property. It was there before the City of River Act. Therefore, it's grandfathered. Forgive me if I get a little passionate about this. So, Mayor, you mentioned the Riverbank problem, that we don't care about the water from this culvert that goes into the river.
I didn't say that.
When you say we're putting up with it,
I said the DNR and the county are putting up with it, not you.
okay, I misunderstood that. I'm way back there. And that culvert and that drainage problem on one lot has gone from $8,000 some dollars a couple of months ago now to $10,600 or something. That's a lot of money for a lot of people to pay.
And let me ask you, do you think we're happy with that?
No, but I'm saying that's how much money we're paying for drainage in one lot. When you talk to people who live there a lot longer than me, on that intersection of Kings Highway and stuff, all that water used to go historically the other way, into the wetlands to the west, and then eventually goes down the river. And somehow back then, it was not on your watch, obviously, 30 years ago, somebody decided to grade the land and put water, change the whole deal, and that goes through that culvert. And if this project goes through on Riverbank Lane, I can see more water going into the river faster because it's all going to flush down this area and the homes that the Ryan has. And it's not going to stay on too long, especially if you get into the election. My lot is a half acre, 160 foot frontage, 250 feet. I see on the website that you want to propose, among other things, to reduce that to a minimum 75-foot setback for buildings. And at one point it talks about how a 35-foot structure, 75 feet back from the river, would not be a visual impact. I encourage all of you to take a float down the river and try to see if that's going to be the case. When you float the river now, the house is set back 150 feet. There's still plenty of visual. But if you get up in the older areas like Sandy, Anoka, parts of Ramsey, and Cambridge, that were built prior to the City of River Act, you're going to see what they're talking about visual pollution or destruction, because those homes were all built way too close to the river. The other thing about the lot sizes that are planned in there that I've seen in there, and I hate to admit this in our neighborhood, but I don't know where place lot sizes that are gonna accommodate all the toys that people buy nowadays that are moving up in this area. I've been to council meetings before where we talked about some of the problems in some of the homes around there. And it's getting bad when you have, and I don't know what the city's regulations are, but when large outdoor boats sit in the front yard all winter, ice castles are out your front window. Yards are strewn with old four-wheelers that are in disrepair, and that's in a half-acre lot. You're proposing to develop the area with smaller lot sizes. Good luck. Then you look at this map here, PowerPoint map, and we're looking at all this area there that's around the oxbows of the river. But this map is not a true representation of St. Francis. If you had a map that went out to 12 miles, surely there must be some places out there to build these homes in the density of the urban field. And on the fringes, with the proper setback from the river, just leave it alone. Why do you want a special variance that could end up, as the old song used to say, take paradise and put a parking lot? And I don't mean to be facetious about that. I don't believe any of you or the council or the mayor were here back in the early 2000s when that area, if you would, sir, if you would hit that area up there by 245th County Line, there, no, I mean,
Or turn west side, yeah, would you please? See up there.
on the west side? Yeah, we're 245th and 47. All that area there, back in the early 2000s, all of a sudden, my wife and I are out hiking in the woods out there, in the fields, and there's guys out there surveying that. I said, what's going on? Oh, there's going to be a big development here. That's the first we heard of it back then. Eventually, we went to meetings, and what they call the initial plat or whatever meetings, and we saw the plat that a developer was going to build on. Well, my wife and I knew that area, because we walked that area all the time. And they had platted lots for houses right up on the slope of the riverbank. And if you've ever walked out there, it's a long, steep slope, and then right back up into the floodplain of the river. And I asked the gentleman at the city here, I said, how is that going to fly with the DNR when you're going to be 150-foot setback from the high water marks? And the high water marks are at the base of the slope. Well, it didn't seem to bother them. So they went through many more meetings, many more plans, final plan approval, sent it up to the DNR, and guess what? The DNR shut it down. Because the setbacks weren't correct. I hope, personally, that the DNR has the same outlook today. I don't have any problem with you developing off the river, several hundred feet, a quarter mile, whatever that. But the Scenic River Act was enacted for one purpose only, and that's to protect overdevelopment, siltation, water running into it, and the visual impact. And we got the real map of St. Francis here. You see a lot of land east and west being developed. And I'm not a builder, and I'm not an engineer, but I just don't see why you want to impact the river that way. And once it's done, you're never going to get it back. Never going to get it back. One other anecdote, 20-some years ago, I was floating the river from my house down to St. Francis with my half-brother. And he's not from Minnesota. And we were fishing, having a good time. And I was talking about boundary waters. He said, what are you talking about? He said, you got the boundary water in your backyard. I said, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's that pristine. We got fields 4 miles from us. We got sandhill drains, and those wetlands that you're talking about in that area just north of where you're developing out, the wetlands that are up there that are off to the river. I don't know what happened to them when you developed it. I might even destroy it. And those sandhill drains and those geese and ducks are there and gone. So And I could probably go on and on, and really boring and go to sleep, but
No,
I guess I'm somewhat passionate
say all
about
that
this.
you
I
have to
just
say.
don't understand why City of St. Francis should be asking for variance that every other city on the river in Minnesota has to adhere to. And we're gonna have a discussion for us, and we could be at the beginnings of a long train of other cities who are trying to do the same thing. And I just don't wanna see it for my grandkids. And I'm gonna ask me, let's let this happen over there. So I'll take any questions from you.
Well, first of all, I want to say to you that we're not going over a variance to fill up our wastewater treatment facility, okay? That's not our goal here, to say, well, we want to project out 3,000 connections out there because we got this plant here, okay? First of all, a lot of members on this council were against this plant from the beginning. Our whole idea here, that's one of the reasons we reached out to Met Council, and hopefully sometime down the road, as they expand out, we'll be able to go to their facility and become one of their 109 million users today and really drop our rates down. And by the way, you know, unlike East Bethel that did a 65 I corridor upgrade, who actually passed their cost on the subject well people as well as city sewer and water people, we're not doing that here.
I
Okay?
know the city administrator there, we're very well done.
And I have friends that live there are paying for their septic well as their city sewer and water that they're not using. We are not having any intention of doing that here. But I want to also say to you that one of the problems you have at Riverbank is, you know, when we said this belong, all the times that we had discussions on that, one of the reasons that you're paying a high assessment if we go ahead and forward with this is you only have 29 people to separate that to, 29. If you had 290, that'd be a lot different. And of course, I understand you don't want that and how that all works out. You know, we've always said here that this one little area, there's a whole city around you that was what we govern for, okay? But I understand where you're coming from and completely, but I just want to emphasize this. This is not based on filling this wastewater treatment facility. We're not doing this to hurt you to fill up that facility. If we were going to hurt you, we just start billing you for wastewater when you don't use it. We're not doing that, okay? And we're not putting sewer and water in your area. And as far as I can tell you right now, there is no development plans here in the next foreseeable lifetime that I'll live, and I'm 69 now, to see use of going out that far. I don't even think we can afford that ever unless we got a lot of grant money, a lot of bond money out there, and a lot of interest to pay. That's not going to happen.
My opinion and my experience back in the early 2000s, when that was a flat set to develop that area that I was just talking about, west of 5847, south of 245th. They were going gangbusters until the DNR shut it down and the economy collapsed. So, what you're saying today, Mayor, may be the fact today. But as you were saying, 2 years from now, there could be a developer in that property gets for sale, and they were going to run 120 or 150 townhouses off of 47, coming in off of 245th, and then building like 120 or 130 homes. And 245th was going to be the only in and out for 47. There was going to be no access for going down to St. Francis.
Well,
And they were going to push 2 roads in from the development through the lots on the west side of Riverbank Lane, through eminent domain, and connect up to Riverbank Lane. And I asked the engineer at that time, so when you connect that up to that neighborhood, are we going to get paved streets enough? No, because your traffic will increase. And I said, really? Really, our traffic will increase? But anyway, that's all history. But I just want to let you know what we've been through out there.
I agree with you. I can tell you something. I've read 15 years worth of packets in the city before I became here, and I sat in that audience for 2 years, and I can tell you, do I think that they were so fast and made haste make waste to put shovels in the ground just to get some development so they could look good, so they could keep their job? Yes, I do agree with that. I think that politicians today, mostly instead of doing their job, worry about getting reelected to keep their job. But in the meantime, we're not doing that here today. I can't emphasize enough long-term reputable development, smart development, not just piling homes on top of homes just to get the tax base up. That's not what we're here for. And I understand what you're saying, but back in those days, I can go back years ago, back in other mayors, I won't even see the names on record now, but those people did not take the time to look into things, to discuss it with you. We've had discussions with Riverbank for over a year, almost a year and a half now, with you guys, listening to your complaint, your concerns, and you brought us a problem. I'm trying to give you a solution to the problem, but you never had that before. I can tell you right now that the past councils, pretty much that you dealt with back then, were pretty much saying, tough being you, that's the way it is, we're done. We didn't do that here. We sat here with multiple work sessions. We sat here and gave you ideas. We went from 10 years at 5% up to 15 years at 3.68%. We're as flabbergasted at you with the price difference that we see between last year and this year. We are shocked. But we're going to talk about that at the next council meeting and see what we can work out.
Yes,
in the meantime, like I say,
I don't want to change the subject here, and I don't want to keep people here for that, because we're gonna have that meeting.
Well, I know we are.
And the biggest thing is gonna be how you explain the original estimate to the final.
I would agree with you 100%. Okay, thank you.
Well, just for clarification, I was just gonna say too, I think as well as all of us, we do care about the environment. We're not, kind of like what Steve was saying, we're not trying to push all this stuff forward, but I can appreciate your concern as far as if you get rid of the variance, how it, as councils change and time changes of how things can be affected. I do appreciate that point. I think with the development, the misunderstanding may have come where what you thought I meant, maybe I misrepresented myself in that too. And I think development is definitely important to pay for that facility. I'm not saying anything about we need to use the river and build on the river to help pay for that at all. I think with this particular variance, the whole purpose of this variance came up. There's a development just below that red line that's already started, and that's where the variance came into play.
That's a section in the southeast corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just past the high school there.
Yeah, so, I do appreciate your concern for the future, like you said. As soon as we get, as soon as we're gone, who knows what the mindset is and how it can change, I understand.
Oh, yeah, that's the unfortunate part of it.
Well, then keep us in.
Okay, I thank you for indulging me on my speech here.
We thank you for your time. It's your city, voice your opinion. Let me ask something here of Joe here, by the way. Can you give us a little history on how this variance got to where it is today? And I think you mentioned something to me in history, whatever, but it was something that was brought up that got lost in the shuffle. I know what he's saying about the DNR and around Racina, but wasn't there something in our city that just got lost in the shuffle?
Well, this district was created in 1978, and the intention of this overlay is to not head off urban development. They acknowledge that is something that's coming, and cities are seeing that, and that's why they made these urban designated areas where you could have denser development. So it does acknowledge that they wanted to accommodate that, but here we are now 40 years later, and the urban development has caught up to the rural area in St. Francis.
Is the podium open? Is it open session right now?
Just in a minute you can come up. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so basically, they do acknowledge in the rules that there is urban development there, and they don't want to prohibit it, and they're trying to accommodate it. But that was 40 years ago when we weren't even close to this red line, and here we are now approaching that rural designation that they have. So they did make exceptions for urban development within this. 40 years ago, I'm sure they said they'll never get to this point, but here we're at this point. So.
Right, but my question to you is, what happened with the city, how it got past the city? The city back 77 years ago could have made that urban.
Yeah, the city, when the law was being created, the city could have said, well, we want this all urban designation, and it's likely that they would have allowed that. Another thing is a lot of this is disturbed agricultural, so there is not, it's disturbed land essentially right up to the urban, so.
Let me say something else here, by the way. Sean said something about, 43,560 square feet is an acre. Divided by 4 is 10,890 square feet per house. That's a city lot, just under 11,000 square feet. Okay? If we divide that by 5, okay, if we divide it by 5 houses on an acre, that would be each lot 8,700 square feet. If we divide it by 7, it would be 6,222 square feet. The house and the lot would be so small, you'd be shaking hands with your neighbor next door. Our setbacks would almost be bumping each other. It's impossible to do that. So I don't know, where was this 5 to 7 houses mentioned that I'm not aware of?
So that 2 to 3 units per acre is the gross calculation of the whole area. So that could include some townhomes in one area, and then maybe half-acre lots in another, for basically a net density of 3 units per acre to the whole calculation. So,
So thank you to the mayor for making my point. I don't want to shake hands with my neighbor law. land that.
And we don't want you
That's the
to.
point.
You know, one of the things I emphasized earlier is responsible growth there, because I'm a builder and I've seen developments go in, and I've seen exactly what you're talking about, where they just build for building's sake. I mean, as over the 25 years I've been building out in this area, I just look at homes that have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, lots have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. It's amazing. I mean, you go down Dayton Road, where Gagne Realty had it for years and years and years, in Champlin, the homes are $800,000, $900,000 homes on up, and the homes are huge and the lots are small, and I can't understand how anybody want to live in something like that. That's just my opinion. But what I'm saying to you is that one of the things, again, and I'm just trying to relate this to past councils here, no one thought about that. I mean, they just want shovels in the ground, shovels in the ground. And I know we've had some conversations here in the council with that in past work sessions. But my point is, I want shovels in the ground as long as it's responsible and reputable, so it's a gain to the city. And not where it's going to hurt one factor. It's kind of like what we're talking about on our corridor change for 47. You know, we have to look at the broader picture of the corridor change on 47, how it's going to affect the schools, how it's going to affect the city, businesses and whatnot. We just can't sit there and go, we're going to put a lane in here and then screw somebody else over and make it harder for people to get to grocery stores or businesses or whatever. So it's a long process with community input. That's why we've always said to you people, when you come to work session, how come we only see less than 50% of your people come and talk? We wanted to see more involvement to get your opinion and input so we can make our decision. And it's going to be a hard decision to make. So on that, like I say, I understand with the towns and stuff like that, but it still has to come down to planning and zoning, it has to come down to a council. And this council here, and I'm hoping to have this council in place for quite a long time, we are looking at being long-term reputable development and being responsible, so that we don't lose the identity of St. Francis to fill up. But this is not anything about Mike filling up that wastewater treatment facility. That mistake was made. We're handling it the best we can. We got 222 more onto it. Hopefully now and then some other people come on. That could be years in the making. Maybe we'll hook from that region, maybe we won't. In the meantime, we'll live with it the best that we can. I'm going to open this up for any input I have. Kevin, you have anything more to say to this?
I really don't. Again, I think some good points were brought up. And again, I can't stress more that involvement is key. Again, we saw the letter sent out compared to ratio of attendance. That's disappointing, but people are busy, and until it actually affects them front and center, people don't come. And I'm really glad you guys came. The DNR also has in place, I mean, they can trump a lot of stuff. They can deny, this needs to be denied. Again, the one gentleman who spoke, you know, if your input is a negative, or not negative, but a no, then that's taken into account as well. That's why this is such a great country and a great, you know, democracy that we're in. That's why we get involved. Now, is it our desire to see a certain outcome? Sure it is. If it doesn't happen, we'll live with it. Just like, again, the sewer system went over budget, we're going to live with it. So, but there's checks and balances, and again, I appreciate the involvement very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, point of order. We live in a republic, not a democracy.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, you have anything to say here?
No, I think I gave my input previously to this discussion. I hope I clarified some things too. Other than that, I have nothing.
Rob?
I just wanted, I really appreciate the residents' comments on here. If we get this variance, it doesn't mean that we're going to push every home to 75 feet of the river. If in 30 years this moves forward and this riverbank all need new septics and a road replacement, you might get city sewer and water. I don't know, I won't be here. You have to look at the big picture. Cities grow, and all we're looking at, you know, and I would be for sectioning this off and asking the DNR for sections, you know. Can we run this red line half a mile from the river and then start our developments? I don't know. Until we get a variance, we can't accept any type of development that wants to go in there. So yes, I'm for developing in a respectful and proper way and looking at the river. That's my opinion, and that's what I look at about what the residents want. I'm not for pushing, you know, 7 homes back to back to back down the river 75 feet. You know, I'm not for that. But I am for opening up a region within St. Francis for some growth.
Sir?
Well, I just want to thank the residents for coming out, and I encourage other residents, if you can't come to a meeting, please email, call any of us. We will talk to you. We'll give you the best help that we can. We don't have all the answers, but we will do our best to find them for you. And I just hope that, you know, you guys, for those who really can't make it to meetings, I understand that, but this email is a really good way, and I want you to really stress to the people in your neighborhood that this is a really good way to communicate what you as a community in that development area, what you guys want, and they will be listening. So please talk to your neighbors, talk to other people, and let them know that this is an option, and that, you know, if they're against it, that's fine. We understand, you know, we're not all going to think alike, and that's okay. That makes it a good discussion. But if you're in that neighborhood and you choose not to come to a meeting and you choose not to email, then you have to own some of that too.
And I just want to go ahead and say here that I agree with Rob, is like I wish we could section it off, but we can't even do that without having the variance in place. But, you know, the Rum River, to me, is like utilizing an historical site. You have the ability, if you have an historical building, like the Rum River Inn is an historical site. I wish they would utilize that more and draw more to it. The Rum River is a site for us to use, not abuse. I know as a builder myself, like I say, I like space around. When I started here 25 years ago, the lots were big, there was room, and it was nice. And all of a sudden I see congestion like what your concerns are. I see that. We're not looking to stack homes on top of homes. We're not looking to build just for building's sake. Progress is progress. If you look down on 7th and Bunker by the library, they have Rum River lots there, but their setbacks are different. We can do that here. We can do planning and zoning. By the time it gets to the actual building of it, from a variance being approved to the urban level from the rural, it's got to go through a lot of motion, public input, design factors, all this other stuff, and we can flag it at any time like that. But we're not looking to put homes right on the river. We want to utilize the river to the best ability we have, and keep the city, again, responsible, as Rob agrees, and I hope the rest of the council agrees, responsible growth. And that's in development stages as well. Do I want to increase the population here to a certain amount? I don't want 60,000 people here living here. We'll never get that. We don't want that. But do I think we can go from 7,700 up to 10,000 comfortably? Yeah, I do. I think we can do that really well. At the next years down the road, 15, 20, 25 years, get to 12.5, possible. I can't guarantee that. I won't be around. But that's as far as we can probably go. We're never going to have 25, 30, 40,000 people here. Do we want that? No. I moved out to Andover in 1995, and it was a small population, 20-some thousand. Now it's 33 or 34,000, and the city's it's got multiple everything, multiple restaurants. Well, every time I go there, it's more congested. You used to say, we used to call it the Edina of the North. It truly is the Edina of the North today. Do I want that to happen here? No, I don't. So to me, I think we got to, again, be responsible and prudent. This council and staff now do our due diligence research. We look into things thoroughly. We just don't take things as put the shovels in the ground, let's go on, move on to something else for people. We just don't do that. So I understand your concerns about the future. But your input is important. So I say to you on that meeting coming up on the 15th, in 2 weeks, get more than 50% of your people to come and talk to us. That would help us too. Okay? Now, do you have something to say here, Joe?
May I speak on the variance?
If you get up and place your name and address on the record.
My name is Joseph Morrell. I live at 24360 Yukon Street, Northwest St. Francis, Minnesota. Obviously 55070.
Thank you.
Can we go back to the flow chart where the red lines are? The variance there at that line, the two property that is north of 235th, where that variance line is, that property will never be sold.
Of the swampland there?
The two properties on Rum River Boulevard and the bigger plot behind. Because I was at the forward
Joe, can you
plan.
point to where he's talking?
I was at the forward plan and I actually discussed that with the owner of the land. So I don't see the point in moving the variance lines because the major concern at that point in time at the forward plan that we just did, I believe it was last year, was a major concern of a bridge going in from there to the other side of the river to avoid the bridge street. And I was under the impression that none of that land will ever be sold. Ever. I guess my major concern would be, even if you do go up to the bottom line, where the variance is at, The only entrance and access to that is 235th. So, if you add all those houses back there, you're never gonna be able to buy any of that land. You're gonna have one inlet, one outlet, and it's gonna create a traffic nightmare. And that road is already congested due to the fact that they put in a, I believe it is a parking lot at the high school with their awesome new turn lane. So I guess my idea of pushing the urban area up there is futile, as well as these other gentlemen agreeing with the DNR. I mean, if it's a scenic river, you'll never be able to build anything on it anyway. I find it as futile, I find it as a waste of money and city resources. Thank you very much.
Right, but I just also want to say, as Joe Coleman alluded to earlier, it gives us the option. The growth factor, I can't tell you, it will ever pan out. The use expense is way beyond. I don't see how we're going to be able to ever do that in the short term, long term possibly. I don't see it. Anyways, any more people from the public then? Okay. Any other discussion on the council then? Okay. Then, as far as the DNR variance request, what do you need from us on that?
We're good to go.
All right. Okay. Now, moving on to department reports, community development quarterly reports.
Mayor and council, attached is the quarterly report for the Community Development Department. The first page, I would like to point out at the top and have you add to your calendars the MnDOT meeting on April 23rd. It will be an open house. They will have presentations. They will have time to listen and hear your thoughts. We don't have a lot of information on this yet. We are hoping to get more, but so far we have a date, a time, and a location. Please pay attention to this and start sharing it so we can get the community input listened to at that meeting. Next is a list of the current economic development activities, including Quick Trip, Breaking Ground. If any of you drove Highway 47 today, it is a lovely clear site with a lot of dirt roads. So they have made a lot of progress in one day. Page 2 starts to identify our larger housing developments. River's Edge, we are continuing to meet with Dale in regarding that development and going towards spaces to the east and the west, as he started that one kind of in the center. The Woodhaven expansion continues to move forward. The Meadows, we are still waiting for the judge's comments. And we have a new townhome/condo development that will fill in the fourth building from development that was platted several years ago. So that was a nice packet of 10 building permits that showed up for that one. On page 3, we've given the data of our building and permits. Today we've had 4 new construction. Just as I had typed that onto this report, we had 2 or 3 dropped off. So that continues to increase. This time last year we were at 7. So putting into perspective, we're probably right on track to where we were last year by this time. The value and the revenues are very heavy on the commercial side this year. This has a lot to do with the Quick Trip permit, the middle school and the high school and elementary school. So there's a lot of commercial that are going to come in this year and be very heavy with all of the school buildings and a couple of the commercial projects. Page 4 starts to outline some of the daily projects in the administration. I have a typo where it says efficiency. It's the building official is now remote access. So he can now respond to questions, permits, and site issues on site. It's not a perfect system yet, but we're working through the data kinks with some of that. Comprehensive plan is underway with those final edits from our last meetings with planning and zoning and council. And we will get that out to Met Council to start their comments. Page 5, I talk about our lovely code enforcement properties. These are kind of our top 8, you may say. This picture is one of our spring properties that we'll get to, I guess, work with. And then I attached also the DNR letter and the map, and I would be happy to answer any questions on any of that.
Well, listen, yeah, you've already said that that is remote for him. That's, I like that a lot, by the way. More keeping him on the job out there, come back and check in and all that. I think that's a great idea. Everybody understand that? On page 35 years back in there, it says our efficiency, the building official now has removed remote access. Understand that? On administration part on page 4 or 5 there. And then also what I want you to explain to me on page 3 of 5 there, Keith, what is this C1 improvement value is 9, I mean, I see it in 15, I see nothing for 16, 17, and 18, I see a number, and then I see a big number for 19. Explain that to me.
Yep, it's commercial and industrial, so it's tracking the permits as far as the value of the project. So a new single-family construction, you could take that 822,000 and divide it by our 4, and that's the average value of the new homes going in. So we have quite a bit of the commercial and industrial improvement value because we have a brand new Quick Trip store, and then we've got an addition at the elementary school. This year is going to be kind of off because of all the commercial is such a high value that it's going to make our other housing look really low.
Right. But on the other hand, like that, where you get Quick Trip actually benefit, you know, with tax dollars and that, and rates and stuff like that, the school bonding really doesn't do that for us.
Maricopa
You
State,
get
they're
permits.
still pulling a permit
Right.
and they're adding, so it is an investment, you know, a value into an existing building is just as much of an investment in a community as a brand new building. Because if we're not taking care of our existing infrastructure, then we're really kind of missing the boat because you're taking that value out. So that school project is just as important because it's keeping that value on that site. So.
Okay. But it's not really what I consider commercial, but not really commercial in the sense that you get a Quick Trip that comes in, gives you, tax dollars, it gives you revenue, by user rates and that, where you get, well, it's the same thing as a franchise fee. I mean, versus, I understand what you're saying.
It's not the retail component in the base tax values as Quick Trip is.
It's a
correct.
plus, but not the double plus I'd like to see. No, I agree. Okay. Any questions on this, Sarah? I'll start with you on your report. Thank you, Bella. Good report.
For the code enforcements, the extensions that we've given, are we seeing any? I know it's kind of tough because with our weather, it wasn't conducive to cleaning anything. But do we anticipate that they're going to continue to work with us, or has there been kind of a standstill happening?
Nope, we've actually heard from both of the 2 properties. We were on site to the one that had a lot of the bins and the extra buildings. Staff was just on site today, and there is progress. There's still a lot to go because of winter. You could, I guess, see where they were actually physically trying to chip stuff out of the ice. So, I think there's a little bit of room there where we need to get to the ground and those bins keep moving. The other one did call and check in. I think it's slow, but it's progress. But his deadlines were out into August, so he has his first on-site mid-inspection in May, and we'll see what's been done.
And they do understand that one extension is the only extension they get.
We have made that very clear to them.
Rob?
I don't really have any questions on the report. It looks really good. I appreciate it. Not to rehash the DNR thing again, but the 1 through 6, are those based on just strictly statutes that we're trying to organize the variance to fit our needs, or are we trying to fit the variance towards a builder? I guess my question would be, do we really need to change it from 250 to 7, or 150 feet to 75 feet? I mean,
it basically makes it so it's like the urban district south of the city. So it gives us options. It doesn't have to be 75 feet. It just gives us that option to make it more urban.
Set based on, the standards based on.
We tried to copy what the urban southern portion has.
But as I stated before, by the time it actually gets to fruition, they may not be 70. It could be 150, it could be 200.
Right, that's why I would hope that.
Would that be right?
Correct. If you were to look at the River's Edge development right now, his current proposed houses are a lot further than 75 feet from the high water mark. So what we're asking for may not necessarily be the reality. And again, we always have that planning process to give those comments and have them shifted forward if we think they're too close. So
Right, and
these
that-
are based off of the urban.
You know, that's why I can't emphasize enough as a builder. I mean, you get a reputable long-term builder in here who wants to, you know, he wants to sell a site. He wants that project to sell the projects for him. So if he puts a cluster of, and I won't say the other word that goes with that, but the cluster that goes with that, you know, you're gonna get a situation, but you're gonna get a situation where that's gonna be a turnoff and not allow him to get other, you know, one thing leads to another thing. So, you know, to me, when they space it out right, they do right, you know, their setbacks are right, and everything is approved right, it's a beautiful development, and it sells itself for the next development. I'm sure you can see that in other states like Arizona, when they have retirement areas and stuff like this. It's all laid out with some thinking behind it, and responsibility, and being responsible as far as not just selling it for the profit, but selling it for that long-term. You know, it's like the properties I built over the years. I'm happy and happy with what I did because I have pride in what I built because it's still standing and people are happy with it. I take pride like that. Not everybody's like that, but I'm out for, you know, there's quantity and there's quality. I believe in the quality. I think that's, again, relates to long-term reputable developers. So, and the city's thinking right today anyways. Anything else you have to say?
So I want the residents to understand the variance language speaks to the rural and the urban definitions within the statutes. Whether or not we move forward and build, if we get this variance in those strategic statutes of 75 feet from the riverward, we won't know until we get the variance to be able to look forward 20, 30, 40 years from us to have beautiful St. Francis homes lining the river. I see it in the future. People want to buy houses on the river. Doesn't mean that every house within this district is going to be 75 feet from the river. So I just wanted the residents, I wish they would have stayed to actually hear that. That's all I have.
And I agree with that 100%, 150%. By the way, you mentioned something about the developer right now looking at going farther back than 70 feet. But don't we also have something with landscaping and some, you know, some buffer zones and stuff like this, and developments that we talk about when it's close to a river like this, that we look to do something like that?
Correct, Mayor and Council, our river district ordinances talk about what they can clear cut. You know, you've got natural vegetation, you've got stabilization, so there are very strict rules in the river district. These issues are minor compared to what is still being protected. So whether it's 75 feet from the river or 255 feet from the river, there's still, you can't clear cut the bluff. You have to hit the high water mark as far as distance. So some of that is still very protected. And like Joe mentioned, there's the one area that they farm closer to what our houses will ever be allowed and have all of that runoff and chemical base going into the river. So to pull it out and put back that natural vegetation to stabilize that soil, I mean, you're going to have less runoff and less deterioration of those banks as well.
And less leaching of septic systems down the road, whatever. And again, the main thing is to be good stewards of the river, because we want to utilize that. Rum River and St. Francis actually go together, so it's important being good stewards of it. So, Joe?
I just thank you for your report. Continue to keep it
Kevin?
I want to thank you also for the report, and also your input or opinion, periodicals that you read and you're exposed to on a weekly, monthly basis. The building climate, do you think realtors, builders, I hear some scuttlebutt. Again, I use that term really loosely because it's scuttlebutt. Nobody ever comes to me with fact. It's, you hear the fact that builders don't want to come to St. Francis. Well, again, give me some sources, give me some, bullet points. And I haven't heard or seen one yet, but I'd like to talk about it more down in the future. But what do you see the climate for building overall, residential stuff, whether we get some of that or not, that St. Francis gets some of that or not?
Mayor Council, so Phil brought a report to me today, and out of the top 20 builders in the state, 6 of them had or are building in St. Francis. I think a lot of what our issues are is recognition that we're there. A lot of people, we go to these events, or I'm reaching out to builders, I'm trying to help the River's Edge developer spread the word that he has lots available, and it's where are you? So I think some of that is really understanding what opportunity is up here, it's not the requirement of a 10-acre lot. It's not, you know, these aren't little townhouses, so it's that education piece. But the builders that build here, you know, they stay. We don't have a lot that build and then go. And we have a lot of repeat builders. So I
For
think
the
we've got a
record-
good relationship with quite a few.
Do you think, St. Francis, if you could make a spreadsheet as far as rules, regulations, or requirements by builders, and I'm sure you've had other guys say, well, I'm not gonna have any part of this, or some guys, it's a comfortable situation, it works great, it's smooth. What have you seen, again, in your time here? Again, previous administrations stubbed their toe quite a bit, caused a lot of bad taste in previous people's mouths. I hear, again, more scuttlebutt about, well, I own all this land, but nobody will build on it. St. Francis, no, come on, I built there, you know, my builder built there, he didn't have any bad things to say. There are still things happening in my neighborhood. You'll have a permit here probably in about 3 weeks for a new home at Smith Lake out there. So how do you say we compare rules and regulation wise if Mayor and I walked in there, we're both builders, and we want to slap down and put a $350,000 house, and you know, is it cumbersome? Do you feel it's smooth? Have you had tried to adjust anything? Do you see any things that we should tweak?
I think our process right now is pretty good. A builder brings in a new set of building plans for a new home, and we can have those out the door usually within 2 weeks. So we are right on target with the other cities. You know, the building of itself, we require that they take care of the MS4 and the stabilization. We require that they identify. Nothing that a lot of the other cities aren't doing. Some cities may be more relaxed when it comes to the enforcement of stuff. Some cities are more strict. So I think we are in a very comfortable process where when somebody, and they do, I think some of this they have to let go of the past. We've had some bumps in the building department in the past. Getting them to where we are now and seeing how efficient we've got Phil, you know, out on the site, remote. We have permits being turned within a couple weeks. We have, you know, staff educated on what needs to be dropped off, so it's not a constant in and out. I think we have a pretty good fluid kind of process that I think if somebody was not wanting to build because of the old process, they would be happy as to where we are today.
Good. Great answers. Thank you very much.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, the ability of your department and staff alone with that, you know, Phil's in his job with Metro West, the backup, whatever, communication, whatever, being flexible where we can without changing our ordinances or policies, and we've done that with River's Edge and whatnot. I think we're on the right track. I mean, are there always going to be some difficulties? Yeah, sure. But I think a lot of it comes from some overlapping situations from the past that still linger with us today. And I hope that someday down the road, as I mentioned to staff more times than not, I'm hoping that the problems we have will be less and less and be able to solve quicker and quicker. But when you have problems like Riverbank that's 26 years in the making, it's difficult to handle a problem at that time frame. So I commend you and staff. I think we only have a positive direction to go. I think the same thing with police, fire, and everything, and liquor and everybody. I think we're doing, as I've said before, I really truly believe that with the department heads and staff in place right now, and this council and the mindset that's in the city right now, we're going in the right direction and we can handle what problems come forth. Would I rather see a little lighter, lesser problems? Yeah, lesser or lighter? Yeah, that would be nice. Maybe someday. Okay? Thank you all. Thank you. Good report. I like that very much. Now, just to emphasize here, clarify rather, this meeting here on Tuesday, April 23rd from MnDOT is a community engagement?
Correct. Mayor and council, that is the community engagement. So the businesses will be addressed specifically in their own meetings. So this is residents, people who have their kids in the school, people who use this road just to go shopping, to go up north, people who want to have a say, or not necessarily a say, this isn't going to be a problem-solving meeting, but people who want to be listened to about why or how they use Highway 47, and maybe what they'd like to see or how they'd like to see it. And it's not going to be boards of solving problems, it's not going to be boards of bridges and roundabouts, it's going to be listening to how you use this road and what are the problems that you see. So they talk about having a presentation that they do a couple times, open house style. We'll get more of those specifics as we go, but we need the people to turn up and to say why or why not in regards to an intersection, a corridor, the highway use.
Okay, and Joe, how will we be communicating this to people, to the residents? Will that be on our website?
You know, we were gonna push out probably some notice on Facebook and the website, MnDOT, you know, we'll coordinate with them.
Okay, so if they go on the website, they hold their cursor on our community, and that window comes up, in the lower left corner is the MnDOT, everything with MnDOT, they can click on that, and they will get to the site that will tell them about this.
Correct, or if they've gone to the MnDOT website and they've asked to subscribe, they will also get those notices. So directing them to that MnDOT website and subscribing to get those emails is probably the first step, and then we'll continue to do our push on our side as well.
Okay, well, let me just state for the public here, it will be on April 23rd from 4:30 to 7:30 at the First Baptist Church, 22940 Street, St. Francis Boulevard. And again, that's on April 23rd, so I want to make sure I get the day of that.
Tuesday.
Is that a Tuesday? Yep, that's a Tuesday. April 23rd, 4:30 to 7:30, as Kate mentioned, is for you to come across and tell you how you use 47. It will help us. This will be just the beginning, but there's many meetings to come here. It's to start here to get a solution to 47, the whole quarter. So thank you very much on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, please.
are we gonna publish anything for that meeting in case more than 3 of us show up?
Yeah, we'll post
Okay.
that.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Great, thank you very much. All right, well, now we'll move on to council member reports. Okay, Kevin, I'll start with you.
I really have nothing to report, but I see our April 27th, the recycling day is coming up, so if you see something in a ditch or something you've had laying around and that you haven't dealt with it, I've been to a few in other communities, and it's amazing the stuff that turns up. And if you've been driving by it, or you know, you've got some elderly neighbors that have some issues or anything, you know, let's pitch in, because it's everyone's neighborhood here, so help pick it up, clean it up. Also I was coming through my own neighborhood today a little too fast, and there's kids on bikes. So spring is here, the snow is gone. There's kids on bikes. They don't see you, they don't care if you're behind them or not, or if you're driving a 3,000-pound vehicle. So watch out for those guys. That's really all I have, sir.
Well, I had the privilege of attending the Winning with Cops movie night, which was pretty cool. Casey's donated pizzas and everything for that, which was also awesome of Casey to do, and give them a little publicity for that and share with the community. And I look forward to more events that are positive impact with our police in the community.
Sarah?
I went to the special school board meeting on Tuesday. Councilman Cabral was there as well, talking about budgets and touched on graduation just a little bit. On Thursday, I attended the Community Ed Advisory Council meeting and talked about some of the issues that they are having with the Barnum facility. On Saturday, I was busy as well. I went to this and volunteered at the St. Francis Elementary Carnival. And then that evening I attended the show choir showcase, which was a beautiful tribute to the young man we lost. And today I did my first stint as crossing guard and noticed firsthand how horrible it really is in the morning and how angry people are there in the morning. Much better in the afternoon, but in the morning it was bad. It was not.
Get a whistle?
I was not allowed to bring my whistle.
Too bad they couldn't taser a car.
Well, in the afternoon we did have, our liaison did stop a vehicle who failed with her sitting right there, who we drove in past and drove out past and still failed to wait for the crossing. And then I just want to also say that this Saturday, Cedar Creek is having their carnival, and that's from 10:30 to 2:30 at the elementary school. And then coming up, our theater group is putting on Beauty and the Beast, and that is April 25th through 28th.
I would just like to tell our residents, I did go to the school board meeting, and don't let me misquote this, but I do believe the next school board meeting, they will decide whether to have graduation outside. So residents, if you have children that are graduating and you would like to see it outdoors, please go to the meeting, get your voices heard. I want to see it outside. So next school board meeting, they did put it off, their decision. So go to the next school board meeting and let your voices be heard about graduation outside.
What day is that, graduation?
I don't know if it's changed or not.
June.
Yes. Also, I want to reiterate what Mr. Robertson said. There are tons of children out there. The sun's up early in the morning, it's bright. They're going in and around the roundabouts, walking to school. So be careful, look out for our youth.
All right, I want to mention here on the 27th as well as Recycling Day, which is a big day. I work it, and it's a good day. I mean, I'm always amazed at the appliances and tires. I'm amazed at that. But National Drug Take Back Day at the St. Francis Police Department and Goodrich Pharmacy from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a big one too, by the way. So we have two big deals. April 27th, once again, Recycling Day at the Public Works Facility, and then again National Drug Take Back Day at the St. Francis Police Department and Goodrich Pharmacy from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Recycle Day is at 8 a.m. to noon, by the way.
Remind them not to flush it. Don't flush that stuff. Bring it in, put it in the right depository. Those opioids and the chemicals don't need to be in the sewer.
And it's strange that you bring that up though, because after the last Public Works report, we had one. Right after that document thing, we're doing pretty good there. I want to thank the people that came out today. I appreciate that. And once again, I can only emphasize, please bring more out on the next meeting in 2 weeks. You will help us to help you, okay? It's hard when you're only listening to a few residents. We know your concerns. We listened to you a long time, and we want to do what's right. There's no doubt about that. We do want to do what's right. So once again, if you have any questions or concerns, I can't emphasize enough to call ahead. I just hope people don't start digging and doing things without knowing if you need a permit or whatever. It's a lot easier to make the phone call than to get into a mess and a penalty or a fine, whatever. And abatements and that, I hope these people are working with us. Weather's a factor. I hope they are working and they understand that the extension is a one-time extension. We want to work with everybody, but at the same time, you have a responsibility on your end too. We can't babysit for you, so you have to take some of the reins yourself. As I said before, and I'm going to say it one more time here before this meeting's up here, I truly believe that the way this government's running now with staff and their department heads in place, and this council mentality that we have to be open-minded and concerned about our residents, I think that there's no problem we can't solve. Once again, it's a lot easier solving problems that are not 26 years in the making. It would be nice to solve something a little easier, a little quicker than take us and drag us backwards. But we will do the best we can with what we have to work with, that's for sure. We're going to give you honest answers and the best answers we can. We've done a lot of homework on your project, by the way, Riverbank, and we'll be talking about that next in 2 weeks. So, any other business that we need to discuss at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody? Okay. Then in that particular case, the time, I will call this meeting to an end. Pat, let me just get the time here. I can get this up here. Just a second here. I'm just doing it here. All right. I adjourned at 8:07.